Ceann Corla. And firstly, I just want to thank Deputies O'Loughlin, O'Callaghan and Deputy Brown for bringing this important bill to the House, which is in keeping with the trend recently by certainly some of the work done in this House on raising the attention to mental health issues and their equal place alongside physical health. Just like everyone over the course of their lives has varying levels of physical health, we all struggle daily to maintain and preserve our good mental health. That struggle is all more difficult when it's done in silence. We know this when it comes to physical health all too well. For decades, public health measures have promoted the idea that looking after your health is something to take an initiative on, to discuss issues with friends, family and above all professionals in order to ensure appropriate action is taken when necessary. Awareness of our own personal physical health on a daily basis has never been better. This is the model we must take in regard to mental health, and much effort has been made in this regard. We've had successful and positive public health campaigns on these issues. Campaigns promoted reaching out, talking to someone you trust and checking up on friends and families. We've had said it's okay not to be okay, but is it? Because while the meaning of that statement is good and right and based on the right ideals, we must pursue, does our own laws reflect this? The truth is, they don't. Right now, as far as an employer is concerned, the law says it's not okay to be okay. It says it's okay to discriminate against those with mental health issues. This in turn says to people who may need help, stay quiet because it's not okay and you may be worse off for acting. By making the discrimination against people due to their mental health a violation of employment equality legislation, we affirm that anti-stigma slogan. We say not only is it okay not to be okay, but it is okay and right to speak up and to seek help. We rightly have spoken out in this House against discrimination for reasons of physical impairment, and I don't see any difference here. This measure is not simply setting right a gap in legislation as some might hope. It addresses a real need because this kind of discrimination is happening. It's happening in the private and public sphere of work. It's happening to people who seek help, who have not sought help, and even people who do not need help, but have suspicions surrounding their mental health due to a climate of stigma, which, while reduced, still remains. I have spoken to many people with stories of this kind of discrimination, and the fear is that is caused to them, the damage that is done to their health and the potential for them to seek care. This is unacceptable and must be made a thing of the past. Who knows how many others stayed silent, hurting themselves and not seeking help for fear of stigma they faced and the potential discrimination. Work, after all, is such an important part of who we are in our society and is such an important centre in our lives. The fear of losing a job due to economic circumstances can be crippling on your physique and your psyche and goes on and on. So surely the same fear could only be a terrible compounding fact on any person who suffers in silence. As welcome as this bill is, though, and following on from the earlier debate on CAMS, it must be said that simply banning discrimination is not enough when our mental health services are in such disarray. Our psychiatric nurses, the backbone of our services, are engaged in industrial action, refusing overtime. They do this not to hold the state to ransom, as some right-wing commentators may say, but they do it to fight for better service and decent treatment which go in tandem. You cannot have a good mental health care and bad conditions for workers in that service. We must listen to the nurses, we must work with the nurses, and we must bargain with them, because no one wants better for the service than them, and I defy anyone to contradict that. I am glad Fianna Fáil have this bill. I do welcome it, and I welcome their positive comments on the nurses' actions, but I would ask them to put their money where their mouth is. Because the nurses I speak to say to me that you are talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can run with the hare and hunt with the hounds. A party which backs up a government which threatens nurses, a party which votes for a budget which perpetrate the problem, are trying to do just that, and I am hearing from nurses that they're not buying it. I do thank the deputies in Fianna Fáil who put this bill forward, and if I have offended you just now, I recommend that you directed the offence to your leadership of your party, because your genuine work on this issue has been very much undermined. I urge the House to support this bill. I look forward to discussing it further and to potentially exploring any possible improvements and strengthening of the text at later stages.